Consider this, a news and information program recorded on the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. From the Fireside Lounge in the Milo Bales Student Center, here is your host, Carol Schrader.
Hello and welcome back to the University of Nebraska at Omaha. This past week, the largest and most influential organization of older Americans threw its support behind a congressional proposal to restructure the Medicare program and add a prescription drug benefit. Now, this is no small deal in the world of lobbying and wheeling and dealing in Washington. It's a very important issue for seniors and for those who have to pay for it, which is the younger generation. My guests this week are Connie Benjamin. She is the state director of AARP in Nebraska. And just for the record, it was formerly a American Association of Retired Persons.
Correct.
It is still now legally AARP.
Correct.
Because it's 50 and older. You don't have to be retired. Just
Correct.
in case people wonder why we don't say that other thing anymore. I also want to introduce my other guest today, James Thorson. He is the Jacob Isaacson Distinguished Professor of Gerontology here at UNO. He's also chairman of the Gerontology Department, and he is also a professor of Educational Administration at UNL. Some credentials. We got some good credentials here. This is a big whoop, as they say. This whole issue of trying to get a prescription drug, it probably was one of the biggest issues domestically, other than just general economy, that was lobbied for in the last election. And certainly by seniors, if you're going by your definition, 50 and over, I don't consider myself quite a senior, but I'm a senior in preparation. But certainly to those that are the baby boomers that are moving into that time of their life, this is a big deal. Let's just say, what is it we have on the table right now in Washington that the Republicans are backing? And I'm not going to say in 30 words or less, because that's impossible. Jim, you drop something, go ahead and pick it up. Let's just give as quick a synopsis as you can. We'll get into some of the specifics, and then I'll give Jim a chance.
First of all, it's the bill or the legislation is still in conference committee. So they've had, they've been working on that for a while. And over last weekend, some agreements in principle were made by the congressional leadership. So we know we have that right now, waiting a few days to get it scored by the Congressional Budget Office, and then it'll be voted on, we think, within a couple of days.
Okay, so that's the big general picture
of
where we are.
And basically what the bill will do is add primarily prescription drug coverage for people in Medicare.
Okay, what do you see this bill as it's presented does, Jim?
A $400 billion boondoggle.
Some say a Trojan horse. It is, for the record, it's
nice
supposed to be $400 billion over 10 years. That's the limit the president
and
has
it really
put on
won't start until 2006.
Right.
So if it's any good, one wonders why it doesn't start in 2004. But the money is going to be appropriated by future Congresses, not the guys who vote for it right now. One of the real problems with this bill is that nobody really knows what's in it. And this is why I'm curious that my organization, the AARP, I've been a member since 1971.
So now we know how old you are.
Well, no, I lied on my application. I was a graduate student. I wanted their publications.
Oh, okay. So you have been a member for a long time. You're concerned about this.
I've been a member for over 30 years, and I hope to live to a ripe old age and be the record holder for length of time as an AARP member. But why did they last Sunday night decide to endorse a bill that hasn't even been shown to them in writing yet? The final bill is 1,100 pages, and it's not even in print.
Well, we do have AARP this past week, when this starts to air, it'll be this past week, putting on a major television campaign saying, you know, call your representative, get them to pass this, and we don't even have it quite in writing yet, and it ends with, or somewhere near the end of this ad, because I've seen it on CNN a million times, it's a good start. Now, I don't know what the strategy is. Is it let's get a good start and then deal with it, or what?
You know, probably a little bit of background on why AARP did what it did. AARP has had some type of prescription drug coverage as a priority for several years. This
Yes.
is something
Not new to them.
It's not new to us. Members desperately need this, as do seniors. We know that people are having to make some hard choices between eating and filling their medication.
Okay, that's no secret.
That's no secret. So we knew that was a very big issue. We've been working on something like this for a long time. Our leadership, our all volunteer board of directors made the decision to back this as it currently is. And that is because we sit as a foundation. We know it's not perfect, but we also feel that the opportunity is now, when we know that this money is available for this, designated for this. If we don't get involved now, we're not sure when the next opportunity would be. Again, we know it's not perfect. We know it really provides some wonderful coverage for low-income individuals and for people who have really some very high drug costs, almost catastrophic drug costs.
But there's this thing called a donut that,
Yes, there
that
is.
kind of confusing to me. It's some, and I don't have the exact
Yeah.
numbers, but it strikes me as somewhere between $2,600 a year in
Yeah.
drug bills and 36, roughly. I'm
Yeah.
just throwing
Basically,
where you pay it all.
Yeah, basically the way the bill currently is, or where the language currently is, everybody would pay on average a $35 premium, monthly premium, and then it would be a deductible of $275. Up to $2,200, the Medicare part would pay 75%. The beneficiary would only pay 25%. But then we talk about the donut hole. So basically, at the point that a person has over $3,600 out of pocket, then the plan would come back and pay 95% of that. So again, the catastrophic piece there is very important. And again, we say it's not perfect, and we're committed to working to improve things over time.
I'm going to ask one of the things that, as someone on the cusp of, I won't hit Medicare for a while, and I'll still be paying in on the other end on the FICA, and worrying about the younger generation. One of the things that I guess I had hoped, and this is just me speaking in my own political weirdness, is that although I am not anti-drug company, I don't, we have Canada north of us, and I'm not saying we should have nationalized, socialized medicine, but they're able to bring the actual cost of drugs down. I don't see this there's a whole bunch of stuff about private insurers and PPOs, and I mean, this is really
In fact, there's a
restructuring.
provision in this bill, as we interpret it. No one's seen the bill exactly, but reading the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, the provision in the bill forbids the federal government from jawboning the drug companies down, as the Canadians do, and that's why they enjoy such low drug prices. This will be a great gift to the drug companies,
And I'm
that's
not
why they're
anti-drug
lobbying
company,
for
but I
it.
guess the thing is, since the younger generation has to pay for this, and the seniors are going to desperately need it because of the cost of drugs, I guess I would have liked to have seen some, at least, discussion be allowed to work on this, since they charge so much more. Again, I'm not anti-drug company. I own a drug stock, but there seems to be such a discrepancy between what the government of Canada has been able to wheel and deal for and what our people are paying here. That
Well, this bill is unusual in that it's something that both conservatives and liberals are able to hate. The
conservatives seem to be, not the
no,
ultra, they
no,
think
the
it's a Trojan
conservatives
horse.
in the House almost blocked its passage last summer. It passed by one vote, and there is a block of 13 conservatives now who are threatening to vote against it. So the Republicans might not be able to get this passed in the House at all. In the Senate, the opposition is led by Senator Kennedy, hardly a conservative, because he says it doesn't go far enough.
But that's not surprising. That doesn't surprise anybody.
Well, it's surprising that both liberals and conservatives are lobbying against the bill. The Boston Globe came out against the bill today. The Los Angeles Times came out against. Federal employees came out against it.
and they're burning AARP cards.
Consumer Union came out against it. Of the 6 op-ed letters in today's New York Times, 5 were against it and 1 was for it, and he was a federal bureaucrat saying that, well, if the conservatives and the liberals both hate it, it must be pretty good. which is kind of backward logic,
Well,
if you will. One of the
let me give you-
persons
Connie,
who wrote into the New York Times says, I'm going to rejoin AARP so I can quit in protest.
Okay, but there is at least a bill on the table. We are at the point where something is happening. That makes AARP happy. But you know, this is a serious change in national public monies for health care costs. And do you just feel that you want to get something passed? Is that, I mean, there's this worry that if we don't do it now, it ain't going to happen.
You know, I would again go back to saying that we know it's not perfect, but we feel that we can't wait for perfect. It's an opportunity because the money is here, allotted for it now. A second is that there were some aspects that we were concerned about that are significantly reduced or not there anymore. For example, previously there was a section that talked about amending the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, and that would have allowed companies, employers, to actually reduce or stop coverage for prescription drug coverage for retirees. That is no longer in there. That's been taken out. So that's really positive.
Well, actually, $25 billion was put in to give to companies to continue that.
Another is that, and that is true, that there's what has been done to help with that is that incentives are being provided within the bill to convince employers and give them incentives to actually continue that coverage, because that would have been impact to a number of people.
So where does the whole thing with the private insurers and square out with, you know, the traditional? I know we always had Medicare coverage, and you could purchase supplemental and your standard medical coverage.
In fact, AARP markets a supplemental Medicare insurance product that's a very good one.
Okay, so how does adding this drug portion of the bill, this drug coverage, does it affect anything else on what we already consider the medical side coverage? You know, the doctors, the
Well, one of the reasons
X-rays.
that the AMA endorsed this, and the American Nursing Association has come out against it, is that there was a provision to lower Medicare payments to doctors by 4.5%. That was given up and turned around to increase payments to doctors with this bill. That essentially bought the AMA's coverage. The AMA endorsement. Right.
And
But let me back up a minute, Carol. You said that the AARP is happy with this. The AARP officers in Washington are happy with this. I'm not so sure that the AARP membership is happy with this, and many of the messages coming in on the AARP website are against this bill. Now, what happened in 1988 was that the AARP was far out ahead, the AARP people in Washington were far ahead of the feelings of the membership, and they lobbied Congress to add a catastrophic protection coverage piece of Medicare. It was a disaster because the membership of AARP rose up and got in touch with Congress and said, we never really said we wanted this. You were listening to our staff. The membership are dead set against it, and that was pulled in 1989. I think this may be happening again. I think the leadership of AARP in Washington may be sticking its neck out for something the membership really doesn't want to swallow. And the more people look at this, the less they like the bill.
Okay, let's.
I'd like to respond to that if I could.
And you definitely have the right to respond to it.
And I would not characterize AARP as being happy with the bill. Again, we think it's a good first step, and that's what where we're coming from. But all throughout the last number of years, I can't begin to tell you the number of focus groups that AARP has convened to hear what members think about this bill, and what they think about prescription drug coverage in general. I think we're polling right now. I heard something recently. I can't really provide details. I've not had enough time to look at it, but members are saying that they're okay with it based on a small survey that was done. in terms of the calls nationally we're receiving, from what I've heard, it's increased, but it's not as high as we thought it was going to be. In our state,
In favor or opposed?
Opposed. So we are receiving some. It's not a huge amount, but we are receiving some. We actually expected, based on what we knew from what our members wanted, that if we'd opposed this, that we'd probably had a lot more calls. Within our state, we've had very few contacts, under 10 contacts within our state from members who are opposed to this.
Any in favor of it?
You know, we have not received a lot of calls in
Okay.
favor of. No,
So they're not calling
that's
you?
right. Or we also have an information center here in Omaha that's been getting a few calls, but I include those in what I
See,
said.
the $7 million that AARP is spending this week to
On the
promote
ads.
this bill is not buying ads in the Omaha World Herald. It's buying ads in the Washington Post.
And on CNN and a lot of the things that seniors do watch. I saw CNN and I saw it on
So
Fox.
I think that a lot of older people haven't really had a chance to examine this bill. And my question is, what's the big rush? If this is going to be such a good thing, and I'm in favor of drug coverage for seniors, why not let's work this out so it is in fact a good bill, rather than putting through a mishmash of 1,100 pages of things that people don't really know what's in.
Well, it does worry me a little. You know, Medicare was a tremendous, and my grandfather worked for the Surgeon General and helped write some of the regulations as they were inputting on Medicare. He
Did
worked
you
in
know that
Washington.
AARP opposed it?
Well, the point I'm making, it's a huge machine. It's
Yeah,
a huge
it is.
machine. It is a huge bureaucracy. I'm not saying that with a bad sense or a good sense. It affects a lot of people in the healthcare industry, whose lives, I mean, sometimes negatively. Sometimes doctors in rural areas don't take Medicare assignment because they're barely making it out there anyway.
In fact, the best provision of this bill is a $25 billion increase to payments to rural doctors and
Yes.
hospitals.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
because they
good to hear.
had been unfairly discriminated
Yeah.
against.
That's very good. I also believe that there is some language to provide some physical exam coverage, such as cholesterol screenings, et cetera, and some diabetes check that had not been included before. And also something about providing more speedier opportunities for brand name drugs going to generic. So that's also in the bill.
But the point I was trying to make, and that's good. That sounds good. Is that it's such a huge machine that we're tampering with a huge machine. And I know from our tax code, when you try to patch this and do that, and you're adding a whole new provision, obviously doing some other things to Medicare, that this is no small task. This is something that we have to do with a little bit of care. And I do worry, since it doesn't even take effect until 2006, just as a taxpayer and someone who may have to use it at some point, that it is kind of being put together quickly. But on the other hand, I think maybe we should do it now.
Well, I'm in favor of a drug provision for the people who are on Medicare, but I'm not so sure that I'm in favor of a lot of the other things that are in this bill. Now, part of the problem is that people will look at this and say, well, it influences senior citizens. I'm not a senior citizen. It doesn't really influence me. Well, 1.45% of your income is paid directly into the Medicare fund to pay the doctor and hospital bills of old people. Not your bills, but currently I pay $1,624 a year to pay for the doctor bills of some anonymous
Yeah, there's
older
the
person.
Social Security, then there's the Medicare
And-
addendum that you pay in.
Social Security is 6.2% of the first 87,000. Medicare is 1.45% of all income. It doesn't stop at any prescribed limit. Now, that can mount up to some money after a while. And younger people might start to think, what am I getting for my investment here? And will they really respect the promise not to increase my premiums and my FICA withholding to pay for someone else's medical bills? You see, when my mother was alive, I thought this was a marvelous deal. Now that she's no longer getting it, I'm not so awfully sure.
But you know you'll be close. So, but the thing I'm trying to say is, we do I think the national will is that we do something for seniors.
Correct.
I mean, I really think that most people think that there's a certain fairness because they've heard the stories. Now, how we do it, how we structure it, you know, are we doing it too soon, or is it better just to get the foot in the door and then fine tune later?
Yeah. You know, and again, AARP has done a lot of work in this area. We know that there's been a lot of discussion. You know, and I think it's kind of looking at the glass half full or half empty. AARP is looking at it as half full. We know that there are things that need to be improved in that, but we also see this as an opportunity to get some changes made to help people that really need it. And we're going to be there fighting to make sure that those improvements happen over time. One thing I'd also add that we forgot to mention, there is a discount card that will go into place in April of 2004 if this legislation passes. And that'll provide...
It'll help a little sooner.
Yes, it'll help probably 15 to 25% help for people in 2006, once everything is set up, then that's the point at which that would end. So.
You know, I know the AARP earlier this year had said that they insisted that a prescription drug bill not include premium support, an assets test, or a large coverage gap, all of which this does. And I don't know if that's good or bad that it does, but you know, they set up their parameters, and obviously things are falling short of their expectations.
One of the concerns really that I think brought about the endorsement of the board of directors for AARP was that premium support, which is really having traditional Medicare fee-for-service compete with private plans. One of the things that was reduced with that is that it's only going to be in 6 communities. This will not start, it'll only be a test. So it's not a permanent fixture. It's a test, it's a pilot. It will not start until 2010. It'll be 6 areas in the country. There are some assurances that premiums can't increase by more than 5%. So a lot of safeguards are built into this. And then once that period ends in 2016, it will take a vote of Congress to continue that or to discontinue it.
See, what the administration is calling privatization of Medicare essentially offers incentives to shove older people into HMOs and preferred provider organizations. Those generally are not a good deal for older people who are sick. They're just fine for older people who are not sick. But in fact, HMOs have a bad history of shoving sick old people out the door when they get sick. I saw that United Healthcare, the HMO that I used to belong to, is enjoying record profits. They announced it yesterday. They quit covering the university employees last year. They booted out all 4 campuses because we're an aging faculty and starting to get expensive to care for. I have a suspicion that something might happen with Medicare enrollees who, as they age, become more and more expensive to care for. And I don't like the idea of shoving older people into HMOs at all. I think they ought to be able to choose their doctor and choose their own hospital without having a gatekeeper saying, you can't do this.
Well, there is a concern. Some people that I have talked to are most concerned about that aspect of it, that they'll be shoved into a set of, oftentimes, and this is not an anti-foreigner, but foreign doctors that are getting paid a little less or working in a system where they can't even understand them, where they're not used to communicating. Older people, and I was talking to 70 and 80-year-olds, are a more fearful group. I mean, they have reason to be a little more fearful. Their world sort of, you know, their bodies kind of start to shut down and they become more frail to face the world. And they're really afraid of that they are not going to have any choice.
Well, and I think that had been a concern with us as well. The way this is written, it says that if an area does not have at least 2 providers of some kind of prescription drug coverage, then there's a federal fallback. So basically, in Nebraska, that's a very rural state, and as you go out into parts of Nebraska, there isn't what's called the Medicare Plus Choice, which is kind of the PPO type. If that's not in existence in a community or an area, if there's not at least 2 of those in existence, then there would be a federal fallback that the government would provide that service. So I think that should hopefully assure a lot of people that that will not happen. And again, the premium support...
Well, basically what you're saying is that you can't shove them into an HMO where there aren't doctors.
Well, sure. or the
Well-
service? The service, though, the PPO.
How about Omaha and Lincoln? They certainly can. See,
Well, there's
they-
doctors. So you
there's-
mean not
there's-
doctors that are Medicare?
There
providers.
really, are some promises in this bill that I think AARP has been beguiled into thinking are safeguards. But, well, who knows?
Okay, so what's the bottom line? What, if you were voting tomorrow and you were in Congress, I guess you'd vote no and you'd vote yes. But is there any room in between in some of this?
I think that this is a nice start for a bill. It's not a nice start for a bill that ought to be passed with all haste before Thanksgiving.
You mean for a law? It's a nice start for a
Yeah.
bill. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah, and they've been tinkering with this and running back and forth to the AARP office since last July, saying, will you guys buy this, will you guys buy that? I think that the leadership in the AARP Washington office has had their heads turned by Congress and the administration, in fact, paying some attention. I think that they might get a big surprise, though, when they put their clout on the line and say, well, we've got 35 million members. Now, these people are not all 35 million people who are going to lobby their members of Congress.
Well, we're running a little short of time, so I do want to mention very quickly that there is, for those that are concerned right now and are on the little lower end of the income schedule, that are 55 and older, and you're concerned about your Medicare benefits, I want to encourage you to go to our website at unotv.unomaha.edu and look for the benefits checkup site, so that people can check to see if they can get help in all their medical benefits if they are 55 and older. So I just want to mention that. We have 30 seconds left for each of you. I want to know, if you were convincing people to call their congressman for and you against, what one thing would you say to them right now that will make a positive effect, not just, I don't want it, I want it?
I think that it's important. It's something that we need right now. We know it's not perfect, and we expect that it'll be improved over time.
I don't expect it'll be improved over time if we pass it into a law right now. It'll sit on the shelf as the law. Let's improve it before we pass it into a law.
Well, we weren't able to give you the entire rundown. There are plenty of places available on the web and on documentaries and things going on right now and news coverage. Please get informed about this bill. It will affect all our futures, whether you're young or old, because either you'll be getting the benefits or you'll be paying for them. I want to thank you very much, Connie Benjamin, State Director of AARP, and James Thorson, Head of the Gerontology Department at UNO.
To view this edition of Consider This or past programs, visit our website at unotv.unomaha.edu. For comments or questions, call 402-554-2516 during regular business hours. Consider This is a production of UNO Television.